I feel like avoidant behaviors are self-sabotage, like on a pedestal, because it's like you did this to yourself.
Yes.
And now it's like, oh my gosh, how did I end up here? Literally the exact opposite. Like, I wanted to be here.
Yes.
But oh my gosh, now I'm in this wormhole avoiding
here.
everything. If I avoid it, then I don't have to control it. Oh, how did we get here? Because when you avoid something, you actually are creating the exact opposite of what you are trying to achieve. So today, on today's episode of Create Your Fate podcast, welcome and not existing, not recovering. We have, by episode 3, former self-proclaimed
control freak. I'm
Lacey
a former
Mitchell.
control freak. I've lost total control. No.
All it took was 2 episodes of this pod.
2 episodes and I'm fixed.
So, former control freak Lacey Mitchell, owner of Sugar Mama Shimmer.
Yes.
Independent, all the things,
all
Enneagram
the things.
3. So if you missed the first 2 episodes, definitely tune back and check those out. We've talked all about, hey, control. What keeps us so obsessed with control? Where it resonates in our life? Applicable things you can do in your life right now to alleviate that control and actually allow your life to happen. Because if you do not do this, you can get to this point where you're self-sabotaging, you're burning yourself out, you're doing everything yourself, and eventually you can actually get these avoidant behaviors.
Yes.
Which I feel like avoidant behaviors are self-sabotage, like on a pedestal, because it's like you did this to yourself.
Yes.
And now it's like, oh my gosh, how did I end up here? Literally the exact opposite. Like, I wanted to be here.
Yes.
But oh my gosh, now I'm in this wormhole avoiding everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, like, one of the big things I avoid are hard conversations.
Because you can't control it.
Because I can't control it. I hate confrontation. I am the queen of avoid that. Like, if I just avoid it, or like with things with my business, things that I know need to be done, I have this tendency, I'll say, add it to the list, because there's a huge list of things that need to be done always, right? But there are some major ones, and I'm like, if I just avoid it, then I don't have to worry about controlling it, because I don't have the bandwidth to add one more thing to my plate.
Right.
And what I end up doing, especially with my business, is like, wait, this would have been, an opportunity. And this would have, had you just gotten a grip on that earlier, you wouldn't have wasted money, or you would have made all this money, or, so it's like, I'm learning. I'm definitely learning that like the things I've been putting off or avoiding, and it's really not putting off, because it's just like, you know what, I'm just going to avoid it altogether, because I don't even know where to begin. And the control freak in me can't control anything else. Like, I've already got control of everything.
Or are the things that you are avoiding things that you cannot control easily?
True. Yeah. Yeah, probably, because when you say that, I think, these are all things I have to delegate.
And I think that's...
Former, still recovering.
Well, we always think like, oh, check, I'm good. Like, check mark. I like, this is totally fixed. Oh, wait, there's more.
Right.
But that kind of goes into breaking the patterns, right? Even just an avoidant personality, whether it's things that I can control or not. Sometimes, as an Enneagram 7, and if you're not familiar with the Enneagram, definitely check out the first 2 episodes of the series. But it's a personality test. It's rooted in motivators, what inspires you to do action, your core fear, your core desire. And it resonates in all these different behaviors. And it's the most spot-on personality test you will ever take. I'm telling you, I coach everything off of this. But there's certain avoidant personality types, and
who are they?
Who are they? Well, 3 sometimes. 2s, 7s, 9s, we can all tend to be a little bit more avoidant. I guess every type could have, avoidancy in some aspect. Right. It's just because certain types I want the good outcome, right?
Yeah.
I want I want the positive. I have to know that there's a positive outcome at the end for me to do this.
Yep.
Because I am inspired by that positive outlook. It's called the positive outlook group, right?
Right.
Now, if I have been avoiding something because I can't control it, and now I've let it sit there, and now it's just like bubbling up and getting way bigger.
Yes.
Right? I'm like, oh God, now this definitely feels way out of my control.
Right.
And it's daunting at this point, and I will
Right.
let's just close this door, because if I
sweep it under the rug.
yeah, it's like it doesn't exist, right? Because it's completely out of control. So that's kind of like that two different perspectives on even control and avoidancy. If I avoid it, then I don't have to deal with the potential shame of not being able to control this.
Right.
Right? Enneagram 3.
Yeah.
Enneagram 7 is, oh God, this is out of my control, and I fear not being able to control it at this point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So we get into these behavior types where now we're avoiding all these steps that we wanted to control.
Right.
Right? Past self-sabotage, now I'm in this wormhole. It's like, oh my gosh, how do I get myself out?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
How do you get yourself out?
How do I get myself out? I mean, usually for me, I give myself kind of deadlines on certain things where, like, not even necessarily where it's like in my calendar a deadline, but like taxes. Let's talk about that. I haven't done my taxes yet.
I'm an extension filer.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be this year, and I'm not normally.
I'm a 7. I am definitely an extension filer.
I'm avoiding it this year. I normally don't, but I'm avoiding it because I don't know how to do it for my business this year because so many things changed.
Yeah.
So I've just avoided it, and it's causing a cloud of anxiousness to just hang around all the time.
Yeah.
So I usually give myself a deadline, and that's really like we're upon it. So, and by the time this airs, it's like way past due. But
right. Hopefully by the time
hopefully
it
I've done
airs,
something.
hopefully the extension's at least in, right?
So anyway, but usually I give myself some sort of deadline. Kind of at the beginning of avoiding something. It's kind of weird that I do this. I don't know if this resonates with anybody else, but I will be like, okay, if something hasn't been done by X amount of time, then I'm going to deal with it. And then that time shows up and I'm like, crap, now I have to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Like
that tells me that you've been trying to control everything. Like I'm microdosing control, so I'm rationing it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be done with controlling all these other things. So this imaginary date that I've just projected into the future, I'll deal with it then.
Right.
And then, but you haven't alleviated any of the control leading up to that. So by the time it comes, it's like, oh, crap.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Do you microdose control?
Oh, gosh. If it
Some
were in
people
a chocolate, I
macrodose.
definitely would because I love chocolate. So, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I don't usually avoid like tasks. That's not in my personality to avoid those things. But I do avoid hard conversations. I do avoid delegating. I avoid. There are certain areas of my life that I definitely avoid. I don't really think I'm a huge person of avoidance, but it definitely creeps in.
Yeah.
It definitely creeps in.
And some people are more than others. But I definitely have this too. And I'm a recovering confrontation
fear or like you're
like overcomer. Like I'm an overcomer. I hate confrontation.
You're overcoming confrontation.
Yes.
Yeah, fearing confrontation.
Yeah, I'm overcoming the fear of confrontation. Use your words. There we go. But here's the thing is, when you it's even like compartmentalize all these hard words.
Compartmentalizing.
Yeah,
we're so stinking
telling
smart.
you.
That's
I know.
why.
When you compartmentalize control, right? It's like, okay, I'm gonna avoid control in this life or in this part of my life, and like let me just tuck that away, right? It doesn't actually go away.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk about avoidancy, because 99% of the time the dread is worse than the actual thing itself.
Yes, for sure.
Right? And then we're choosing to stay in negative emotions, negative energy longer because now I'm putting this off and I'm dreading it.
Yeah.
So now my energy is already really low.
Right.
It doesn't go away. It's always in the back of my mind and I feel super out of control.
Right.
So where am I going to overcompensate into another area of my life?
Right.
And this is a sneaky place where control and this need for control creeps in, because I can't control my relationship. You know what I can control? What I eat,
Yeah.
how much I work out.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I can control what I buy, what I shop for. I can control. You overcompensate,
Right.
and it resonates sneakily where you think, no, I'm just like a really disciplined person.
Right.
No, you just feel like this false sense of security around I am controlling something in my life,
Right.
and I'm going to overdo it because this other area of my life is a hot mess.
Okay, question. So do you find that people who become control freaks, or do you think that comes from a learned behavior maybe in your childhood, or an experience or a traumatic experience of loss of control?
I definitely think it definitely plays a part in it.
Yes.
Right. Essentially how this works is, how your personality is formed.
Yes.
It's a little bit of nature, a little bit of nurture, but when we're really young, our brains are obviously not as developed, but it's because your brain waves are at a different frequency, right?
Right.
So the way we receive and what we can do with that information changes over our lifetime.
Right.
So when you're really young, your brain waves are in something called, gamma and then theta, where you assign everything, you accept everything as truth.
Yeah.
Right. So these beliefs turn into thought patterns.
Yeah.
Right. Because your brain starts to change, and we say, "Oh, I think this a lot," or "I see this a lot."
Yeah.
Right. I'm observing, and this makes sense. This must be truth.
Yeah.
So then your brain waves change again into something called, that goes into alpha and beta is what adults are in.
Yeah.
So now we've assigned truth to it, and because this is true for me, now I have created a habit.
Yes.
Okay. And then next thing you know, your habit, this is just how I do things. This is just how I am. I'm a control freak. This is now turns into my personality, right? This is why I use the Enneagram, because if I know that the belief turns into the thought pattern, that turns into the habit, that turns into a personality, let's use a personality test just to kind of funnel in on what is the actual belief that's, in this instance, causing you to feel this need for control. Is it anger? Is it fear? Is it shame? Right? What is it? What's the motivator here? Because if you never go back to the motivator and the root of the problem, you're going to keep just patching control in different areas of your life, and everything's going to feel shitty.
Right.
Because it's like, oh no, this part, it's going to build, it's going to build, it's going to overflow. Well, I can control this, because if I can control this aspect of my life, I'm going to feel really good.
Right.
You know? So I definitely do think it plays a part, and I think everyone's different. But yeah, what you have seen, what you've seen work, seen not work, right? How it made you feel when you saw either of those things has definitely shaped your behaviors and your patterns, for sure.
Right. Yeah. Because I'm like, I can't look back and think of a time where I felt like things were totally out of control. Mm-hmm. So it makes me wonder, how did I get here? You know, how did as I'm still recovering, as we
So not reformed,
not
recovering.
Totally reformed. It's going to be, I think, a lifelong journey.
Yeah, for sure. As personal development always is.
Yes.
You know?
But, it's like, I almost wonder, how I got here, when did this start happening?
Yeah.
And I think it's I think it's a lot of I learned my lesson. I learned. And, like we said in, I think the second episode, taking on that responsibility, or owning things that really weren't even mine, and being in control of those things. And so I don't know. It was interesting for you to say that, because I was like, yeah, this is right, because I didn't have some traumatic experience where I had total loss of control.
But the trauma doesn't have to be around control. Right. If you don't mind, I'll bring up a personal example.
Yeah, you go for it.
Yeah.
I'm an open book.
I know, Mike. We can always edit it out if you don't want to. But when you were young, how old were you when your parents got divorced?
11.
11. So that's around that time where those alpha brain waves are changing from habits to personality, because that's around 8, 9, 10-ish. So when you're seeing things and I don't know what the experience looked like up to that point,
Right, yeah.
you know, when they actually got divorced.
Yeah.
But you're observing behaviors and you don't know what to do with them because,
Right.
again, you're just
Yeah.
young.
Yeah.
And you're just seeing things and this is how this is. This is how this is. This is how this is. On repeat, on repeat, on repeat.
Right.
And now I'm starting to become this person, right?
Yep.
But now my parents are getting divorced and there's literally nothing that you can do about it.
True. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that was maybe a point for you where I can't control this huge, like the biggest part of my life, my
Right.
family life. I can't
Right.
control that right now. So let me feel good about myself
Yeah.
by checking things off,
Being
right? Or independent.
an A+ student,
Mhm.
being involved in all the things to the point where my parents were like, you can't play the violin because it's the same time as basketball and swim, and you're in both of those, and
You played the
dance
violin?
and gymnastics. Actually, I think they asked me to come play because my school is small, and they just
orchestra.
didn't. They needed someone like to kind of build up some of the programs because they were like, oh,
Let's get Lacey in here. She'll do it.
Yeah, like we need somebody to
That's
like make this cool. And
So your orchestra teacher realized
Meanwhile-
that you were a control freak before you did.
Mrs. Huck, it's her fault.
Mrs. Hook.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, that could have been where it came in because it was like my social life and my academics and all of that I could control. Yeah, so probably slow and steady, which is probably why it's going to take me more than just 3 weeks to
Right? It's
change it.
And that's the thing is not controlling your personal
Yeah.
development. People are like, oh, I've made the dot, like I've connected the dots. Now I gotta do like it should be perfect. And now I'm controlling my personal development and my self awareness. It's like, whoa, allow it to happen, right?
Yeah, break the pattern too. Like stop doing it.
Break the pattern. Just stop doing it, and that takes a long time, you know. And I say it like this. If you write, let's say you're right-handed.
Right.
If you write with your right hand forever, right? 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. If you take a pencil or a pen and start writing something with you know what an A looks like, you know what a B looks like, you know what a C looks like, all the letters. And if you write, hi, my name is, in your name, with your non-dominant hand, it's going to look really crappy.
Right.
It's not going to feel good. It's going to, oh my God, that took forever.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly how like retraining your brain is. So for you to be okay with control and not go into avoidancy, to not go into self-sabotage, to just be okay with things are out of my control, you know? That's like you constantly now, okay, I'm done with my right hand the way I like obsessed with control, right?
Yep.
Now I'm my left hand. I'm not obsessed with control. Yeah, sure, it feels good to say, but when you actually put literally pen to paper, man, this is just taking way too long. Like this is hard. This I could get it done quicker if I just do it with my right hand. I don't have time for this today. I got to write with my right hand. And that's what personal development feels like.
Yes.
When you start trying to write with your non-dominant hand, it's like it's not going to look good. You're not showing that artwork to anybody.
It's not easy.
Yeah, you don't want anybody to see it. It's not easy. And a lot of times it's just easier. Let me just pick up the pencil with my right hand.
Right.
And it's interesting, too, to think if I wrote with my left hand for a year, would it get better? Yes, it would. Slowly, slowly, slowly. But at the same time, if I didn't write with my right hand for a year and I picked up that pencil 1 year later, my right hand would still know how to write.
Yep.
So that thought never goes away.
Yeah.
It's just giving yourself the grace, the forgiveness, and allowing yourself to grow slowly in your human experience.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because it was a beast that was built over time, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right. And then we put all these unrealistic expectations, right, of the past and the present. But all it can really be is present in this moment. In this present moment, I am actually just realizing. I'm just getting my self-awareness of this is the root of my problem, or this is where behavior is resonating in my life.
Right.
That is what that moment is meant for. Another moment is meant for correcting it.
Yeah.
Not avoiding, not repeating old habits and old behaviors. That's what the future is for, but you can't worry about the future yet.
Right.
You
For
know?
sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely recognizing the pattern and then changing it. And I think it kind of applies to everything
Yeah.
across. I know Tony Robbins, that's what he coaches, recognize the pattern, break the pattern.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, it's definitely true because even like with my business, we're, in a recession and being in retail and being really kind of at the beginning stages of retail, being in the wholesale, I'm not like we see the manufacturing, we see all of these things. And then the step where we come in is then we sell to stores who then sell to customers. So we're kind of in the middle a little bit, but we're at the beginning. So the recession stuff has been very apparent to my business and my friends' businesses for, I would say since last June, to be honest. And so it has been, like, okay, so we see that this is happening. How can we pivot? How can we do something different? And recognizing, like, hey, this isn't working. What worked for us in all of 2021 doesn't work in 2022. And so far into 2023.
Right.
And it's shifting. And so it's seeing the pattern of like, okay, so this worked. And then there was just a sudden stop. And now we're having to change and be adaptable and what
adaptability.
what feels like every single month we're having to like switch things up and change the
I already
pattern.
was adaptable once.
I
Wait,
know.
you're telling me I have to be adaptable again?
Yes.
It's like when personal development does not go the way you intended.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And now it's like what worked for a whole year now doesn't even work maybe a month, sometimes 2 weeks.
Sometimes
expired.
it's a day, right?
Yeah.
But then also like condensing your past, present, future, right? It's present moment, present moment, present moment.
Yep.
From week to day to hour to minute to second. It's like things, allowing things to change, right? Just going back to the art of allowing your life to happen, right? Allowing things to be different, not, and allowing yourself grace.
Yep.
Allowing yourself to do things and change things multiple times.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I don't know. I feel like there's this really positive spin on adaptability. It's actually one of my core values.
Yeah.
Is adaptability. So if I'm ever faced with a hard decision, I'm like, okay, how can I incorporate my personal value of adaptability? Okay, I would make this decision. Boop. But we think adaptability is so great.
Right.
Adaptability feels shitty.
Yeah. I mean, it's constant changing. And in some aspects, it comes naturally for me in a social setting. You could throw me in a room full of 16 different types of people and I'll find common ground with them. And so that is just so easy. But then it's like in my business right now, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not kidding. When something stops working, it's 2 weeks later before we're on to a new concept or new whatever. And it's just like, all right, dropping everything and, doing what's new or what's working at the time. And now I'm kind of going back and we're doing some of the things that 6 months ago worked because now they're working again.
Right.
And so it's like revisiting old, I don't want to say patterns, but it's like revisiting like those past things are now working again.
Right.
And I don't know, I think things are cyclical, right?
Right. Stop trying to force things that are not meant to be right now. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
And it's like you do have to break that pattern. And sometimes that does mean picking up something that didn't work 6 months ago, but now times have changed and now it does.
Yeah.
Or seeing something, hey, let's try this. Know? Sometimes it does feel like throwing spaghetti at a wall.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes it is. Like if things like, pandemic hits, it's like, I don't know. I've never done this before. And you got to think to yourself and wherever you are in your life that you're trying to control. Have you ever been in this moment before?
Right.
If the answer is no, give yourself a little bit of grace.
Yeah.
If the answer is yes, are you going to repeat a behavior that doesn't work?
Right.
Or are you going to just keep beating a dead horse over, no, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this.
This is how it should be.
You got to be willing to allow growth.
Yeah.
And or things don't change, right? Nothing changes if nothing changes. And I know I don't really talk about dating much on this podcast, but I have typically had this avoidant personality when it comes to dating, and I've always chalked it up as I don't care enough to even reply to this person.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. I think I know where you're going.
Yeah. And I was like, my energy healer, actually, I was telling her about this, like, certain situation. And she was like, well, that's actually interesting. You're controlling the situation. You're not even giving this other person a chance to say X, Y, and Z
Yeah.
because you are avoiding it and therefore controlling it.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, oh my God, wow. Okay. That was some realization that I didn't realize that control was
Yeah.
coming into. I can protect myself if I just avoid it. I
Yeah.
don't give him the chance to do X, Y, or Z. Right.
Right.
And so I always chalked it up, though. Like, I made myself feel better
Yeah.
and say, oh, I don't want to bother myself with this type of whatever,
Right.
you know, I don't care. And I shrugged it off and, you know, moving on. Adaptability,
Right.
moving on. I masked myself in adaptability when really it was just avoidancy.
Right.
And
The truth is, if you spoke up and said what you thought, there might be a response that you can't control, or they may say something that could
hurt my feelings.
you.
Yeah. And I had an opportunity very shortly after that to, in multiple situations actually, I could have avoided something.
Yep.
But if you don't change, then nothing changes.
Yep.
And I said, this is not a cycle that I really
Right.
want to be in anymore.
Yeah.
So I changed my behavior. I didn't avoid it. Did it end up with the outcome that I wanted at the time? Absolutely not. In either situation.
Yeah.
But if I look back, am I really happy about what actually transpired looking back? Like, yeah, I actually am. I stood
Right.
up for myself and I didn't avoid things.
Yeah.
And that is when you stop trying to control things and you allow your life to happen and you stop fearing like, oh my gosh, what if this response is something out of my control or something that I haven't planned for? It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You broke the pattern.
You broke the pattern. And then something, you know, when you break the pattern, that's when your life changes, right?
Yeah.
Because you cannot control and allow your life at the same time.
Yep.
And we're going to wrap up our control series, but I wanted to share this incident that I had. You know, my podcast is called Create Your Fate.
Yes.
And a couple of months ago, I was in bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, what does fate mean? Like, what,
Oh, yeah.
you know? Yeah, I mentioned this on another podcast. And I'm like freaking out. Like, I've been doing my business all wrong, you know? And you can't control your fate, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a so I looked it up, like literally dictionary.com. And it's a supernatural occurrence just beyond one's control.
Oh, I love that.
And at first I was like, oh my
God, now I'm
God.
telling people to create it.
Yeah, and you can't control it. And I'm like, oh my God, I've done this all wrong. And then I realized what is just beyond someone's control is allowing.
Yeah.
Because you cannot control and allow at the same time.
Right.
You cannot allow your best life to happen, things that you don't know yet.
Right.
Because you haven't been there. And if you don't enjoy where you are and analyze where you are and aware of what you're doing in this present moment, then you're never going to get there.
Right.
Because you don't allow it to happen because you're so busy trying to control it based off of what is not happening to you anymore. And that's called the past.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So it's really like creating a space for you to allow things, good things to happen, which is your whole mantra. Expect good things always.
Well, it did come full circle, but I did have a little.
But I would have had the same freak
oh
out.
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, at 3 o'clock in the morning, couldn't go back to bed. But
well, and I want to touch one thing before we wrap up because it's interesting when you were talking about like speaking up and like standing up for yourself. So there's this relationship expert that I found on Instagram, and she was saying like, you know, everybody does this like ghosting thing. And trust me, I've ghosted. I've been ghosted and I have ghosted. And I'm, you know, I think there's appropriate times to just walk away. But she basically said like when you're dating and, you know, like let's say it's been enough time for you to be like, hey, you can't just all of a sudden pull away from me and me not notice what's up. Because now suddenly they're not texting you back or like they're kind of absent.
yeah.
And she said, instead of just letting it happen and just trying to be cool or roll with the punches or
Allowing
whatever,
it to happen.
she said, break the pattern because that isn't working for you. Break the pattern and say, hey, I noticed you've been pulling away.
Yeah.
I just want you to know, like, I am aware of it. If there's a situation like that we need to talk about, whatever. And she was like, because then you're basically putting out to the universe what you are accepting in a relationship and what you will not accept. And it's interesting because when I look back, that's exactly what I did when all of my relationships started to change into being serious or actually guys that I wanted to be dating versus guys I wished I was dating.
Yeah.
So I broke the pattern. I didn't know it.
Right. But then you look back and you're like, oh my God, I did that.
Yeah.
Because, and here's the thing about that. Like with it, when it comes to allowing, look around your life.
Right.
This is what you are allowing.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you don't like it, change it.
Right.
But you can't change it by doing nothing.
Right.
Right. And if you think, oh, if I'm allowing this to happen, then what are all the amazing things out there that you don't know about yet?
Right.
Like,
right.
how about you allow some of those to happen?
Right.
Right. Because you are responsible for your life, right?
Yeah.
I firmly believe that, right? You're responsible for your fate. You can create the life that you want. You can create your fate. And it's really just allowing it to happen. And if you look back and you say, oh, I did not like my life, you allowed that to happen.
Right.
But to this level,
right.
tiny little bit, because you were so focused around control.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for coming on shows.
I hope that in 2 years when I am on this podcast, we can have a follow-up control. I am reformed.
Fully reformed.
Fully reformed.
Now a scout leader for others.
Yeah.
Yes. I think, but that's the thing. It's even if you're never reformed, allowing yourself growth one step at a time, right?
Yeah.
It's so Enneagram 3 of you, like, I just want to be there.
In 2 years. Yeah.
In 2 years.
See my
made-up timeline. Yeah. I want to be here. But really appreciating, oh my gosh, even from beginning of conversation to end, wow, did I grow even a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
That's great because direction is more important than speed.
Exactly.
So,
Boom.
Love
it.
On that note, definitely we'll be tagging Sugar Mama Shimmer. They got this new color out. It's called Unicorn Dust. It's so cute.
Purple iridescent.
Perfect for Pride.
It is.
And I'm sure you'll be on the show
a million more times.
That's
the plan.
That is the plan.
This
actually has been the plan. And when you allow the plan to happen, the plan happens.
It does.
And sometimes even better things happen.
Exactly.
So and now we're on video, right?
We are. I used to curl my hair this time.
I know. I'm like, I normally come in here with no makeup on.
I was like, dang, I have to wash this hair.
I gotta look, But allowing amazing things to happen and just alleviating control. So we hope that you got so much out of this. Was it a trilogy?
Trilogy.
Right? It's a trilogy.
Sounds very Harry Potter.
A trilogy on control. So definitely check out all three if you missed them. See where these areas of control are sneakily creeping up into your life and what you can do about them. These practical applications of allowing your life to happen and not just controlling it. So, as always, if we could leave you with just one thing, it would be this. Expect good things always, and they will happen.